Something that I don't think I've ever said before, that money. I know. It was bananas.
Welcome to another episode of Richer Lives by SoFi. I'm Vivian too, and today I'm joined by the co-founder and chief brand officer of Poppi, Allison Ellsworth. Welcome to the show, Allison.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm a huge Poppi fan. Before we get into your background, your story, what is one flavor of Poppi that you were so convinced was going to work but didn't? And then on the flip side, what's a flavor that everybody else around you is obsessed with, loves, but isn't your favorite?
Weirdly, our root beer. Nostalgically, growing up, I loved root beer. My husband loved root beer. We launched it and the flavor was crap. It was so bad. And so we spent 2 years doing a reform and we just relaunched it this year. So it actually was a failure that we had out that we fixed, which I think a lot of companies don't do that.
Yeah.
And then everyone loves our lemon lime. And I'm just I'm actually a ginger lime girly. And so for me, it's good. I get it. It's going after the 7-Ups and the Sprites of the world, and you kind of have to have it. But it's just, maybe not my fave.
Strawberry lemon girl for me.
She's my baby.
The best.
She's our top seller. She's my favorite. She's why everything at Poppi is pink.
Okay, let's take it back to the beginning. You grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Yes.
Small town.
Very small.
Growing up, what would you say your relationship with money was like?
I think in my household, we had love over money. We were poor, we were rich.
Wait, tell me about that.
Before my parents got divorced, my dad had a lot of money. He worked in oil and gas. He had millions and millions of dollars and lost millions of dollars. My parents got divorced. We moved with my mom to Texas, and our lives dramatically changed. We were raised by a single mom, and we were raised as latchkey kids where my mom didn't come home until 5 o'clock. We were running around the neighborhood, but nothing really felt different for me as a kid. I was still loved. We had food, we had clothes. So for me, it wasn't always about material things. It was just about having a safe space and being loved. I think it's the richer way that we were just kind of raised.
Was money something that you actually talked about in your home, or no, it was taboo?
No, I wouldn't say that my mom or dad were very good with money. And so I didn't realize the value of saving and not just spending on whatever you want until really I met my husband. And so even through life and through college, my relationship was get the money, spend the money. It just wasn't a conversation as a kid. And I wish it was, honestly, because there's so much to learn. And I don't feel like I had a good foundation of that.
Yeah. Whether spoken or unspoken, what do you think is the best money lesson your mom or dad taught you that helped inform how you were building Poppi?
You build it for the build and the passion, and you don't do it to get rich. Yes, money can change your life. Yes, I do like to spend money too. So let's be real here. Honest. That's a real thing. But it really was the passion and the build. And money to me is I think that you should spend it. I think you should have fun. I think you should have experiences. Don't be dumb and, lose your house and not be responsible. And I also think you should live a little bit below your means so you don't have to feel stressed or over leveraged. And so for me, it's have a little bit of fun, but be responsible as well.
You can do both.
And I had to learn that. Yeah.
Tell me about a lesson where you had to learn that.
Right out of college, I worked in oil and gas research. I was making $500 to $1,000 a day at 23 years old.
That's good money.
Really good money. Sometimes I was making $200 plus a year. I had zero savings, zero anything to show for it. No house, no assets, nothing. So it was a really good lesson to be look, you've worked really hard. You've been away and doing all of this. What do you have to show for it?
Not how much you make, but how much you get to keep.
Exactly.
We fast forward to 2016. You start to have health issues and you start experimenting with apple cider vinegar. Give me the Poppi origin story inside of your kitchen. Take us with you.
Oh my goodness. So I, for 7 years, had horrible health problems. My stomach was always bloated, really bad acne, inflammation, and I was going to doctors and nobody could tell me what was going on with my body. They kind of were just girl problems.
They wrote you off.
They wrote me off. And I just didn't accept that. So I did what I think a lot of people do is I Googled my symptoms.
Of course.
And I discovered the ingredient of, I don't know if you've heard of the Master Cleanse and drinking apple cider vinegar.
You do a shot before you eat your lunch and it tastes disgusting.
It's horrible and it's acidic and it's hard on your tummy. So I loved the way it made me feel, but I didn't like the taste. I love to cook. I love spending time in the kitchen. So I was I got to figure out how to make this taste good And I will never forget, like it was yesterday, simmering raspberries and infusing the vinegars in little mason jars and trying to convince Steven, my husband, to try it. And he was like, you are absolutely crazy. I'm not drinking vinegar. So it got to the point where it tasted good and everyone got really excited to try it. So I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Maybe I should take it to the farmer's market, right? So it was just kind of like a hobby passion. I never really saw it as a career.
Did you spend a lot of money on like ingredients trying to make it taste how did you even figure out what tastes good?
No, I mean, just like regular mason jar in your kitchen, buying fruits. And the important thing for me was to keep it healthy. So sure, I could have added the apple cider vinegar with orange juice and it would have been 40 grams of sugar and you would have never tasted it. But because it was my health journey, it was that fine balance of trying to figure out the health and the taste, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
And so it was, just natural ingredients in my kitchen. I think when we decided to really take it to the farmer's markets where we started to have to invest actual money into it.
And your co-founder, Steven, your husband, you guys actually were going through your own life journey, starting your family, kids, all the while maxing out your credit cards, taking on debt to build this. How are you feeling financially at that time?
Pretty good, because I met Steven. We'd been married for about a year, and he came to work with me in oil and gas. So he was making the same thing I was doing. We were both making really good money, but we did make the decision to start a family. And so we got pregnant. We bought a house in Dallas. And then we had this realization, well, I can't really go back on the road and do this oil and gas stuff. And I was kind of burnt out. And so he got a job at a gas company in Dallas. And I was like, I got to go sell my hooch at the farmer's market. So we would spend the week like bottling. We had vats of vinegar in our guest room. We got like 50-gallon tanks all over. Like I was 3 months pregnant. I swear the smell,
of vinegar just make you nauseous.
Oh yeah. It was just like this whole wild world. We were carbonating the drinks in our living room. It's just like fun at the time, but also really scary to walk away from such great careers.
Yeah. To go from like having careers where you make so much money and have that kind of stability to doing something where you are much more financially precarious. Did you guys have like a big conversation about that?
It definitely stressed Steven out. Yeah. So for me, I've never really been scared to just like jump in and do something. Like I actually don't even think about it. It's an actual problem. He tells me all the time, like, Allison, you didn't even think before. But I think that is the combination of why we were so successful. I didn't think I jumped. He's like thinking and catching me while I'm jumping with the business plan after me. We had this moment at the farmer's market where Whole Foods kind of gave us validation that we should be in grocery. So we kept getting these like little validations along the way that it was something that we should be doing. And for me, it was like a no-brainer. I'd made money. I've lost money in the past. My head is like, well, we can always go back to work and make money again. We can't really ever do this again. So like, why not try? And then once we were in it, we were all in it.
Yeah. There's a big conversation right now around monetizing your hobby. It just kind of sucks the joy out of it. Were you ever worried that you would hate your passion project?
No, never.
No.
I was so obsessed with sharing it with as many people as possible. It was really hard because at this time, I'm pregnant. We just bought a house. So there's like a lot of like monetary things, kind of pressure on the family. And I actually think that fell to my husband, which is like, looking back, I feel a little bit bad, but I don't because obviously we're here where we are now. Like I wouldn't change a thing.
Worked out, Steven.
It worked out for sure. But I think there was just like a lot of pressure. You actually have to invest to make money.
Yeah.
And I think that people, when it comes to hobbies, don't want to take that risk. So they keep their job. They only do it 20% of the time. They want to see it grow. They want to see it profitable, but they don't actually invest in the growth of it. And so I think we did the opposite where we went all in and actually spent money. We actually spent time, bought equipment. We were like hired out help. And I think a lot of people just do it themselves.
Yeah.
And that's really hard on an individual just to kind of do it on your own.
You're preaching to the choir. I quit my full-time job to be an internet person. So it worked out okay. But you mentioned that like a lot of the pressure fell to Steven. Have you guys ever fought about money?
Oh, it's the only thing we fight about.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So he worked at Wells Fargo Financial.
He's a suit.
Yes. He's an entrepreneurial suit. Okay. He's definitely had his go against the grain, like wild days. It's a good balance, but I'm always pushing to spend money. I don't want to feel restricted within my budget. So give me a budget. And if I spend that budget, don't be mad I spent the budget, right? Because like he can't compute. He's like very uncomfortable. So like I'm spending money buying new clothes, doing these things. So then he feels he can't do it and it gets resentful.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I stayed within the budget.
Yeah.
So like you can't be he just can't spend money. And so
He's super frugal.
he's very frugal. And in the early days with mother, fell fully the responsibility on him because I was pregnant. I was like my idea and like making it and doing all of these things. He was the one having to work and like pay the mortgage. You know what I mean? Because we made just enough money on the weekends at the farmer's market to really just reinvest and to buy ingredients and bottles and equipment. So it really wasn't like funding our lifestyle.
Yeah.
We cut way back in the early days. No date nights. We never ate out. I remember the AC broke in our truck in Texas, which is like 110 degrees. Couldn't get it fixed. So we had to make a lot of sacrifices. But now the conversation of money is bigger than ever because we have more money than ever, right? Yeah. So I think it's an ongoing conversation, but it's a healthy one because I also don't want to just like go broke and like those people. Of
course.
You know, so it's a healthy balance. We've always been a really healthy balance for each other.
Back in the day of the farmer's market, what were you selling bottles of your mother at?
$4.
$4 a bottle.
It was crazy expensive, like looking back, but we were barely making money on it because we were making it all in our kitchen. Bottles were expensive because you couldn't buy in bulk. Ingredients were like, you know, we were buying them at like Whole Foods, right?
Yeah.
You don't have like the manufacturing set up. And so
there's no wholesale purchasing.
No. And we opened our own manufacturing facility, which anyone should not manufacture yourself if you don't have to. It's so hard to scale. And you end up like focusing on putting caps on bottles versus growing the business and hiring a team and focused on the brand and marketing. I do like that we had our own manufacturing facility because it gave us a really intimate understanding of how our product is made. I do think a lot of entrepreneurs don't know how their product's made.
Right.
They've hired on some scientists or someone to like formulate the products for them. Like I still to this day can make our products, right? And so I think it is a journey that I was happy we went on, but way happier we got out of it really quick.
You heard it here first. Allison still has the secret Krabby Patty recipe.
Oh my gosh, I so do.
All right, time for a quick hydration break and a moment to hear how SoFi helps members get their money right. If buying a house feels too unrealistic, even for your vision board, let's talk. Because owning a home doesn't have to feel like an out-of-reach fantasy. With SoFi Home Mortgage Loans, you can get matched with a local real estate agent. Plus, they offer affordable down payment options starting as low as 3% for qualifying first-time homebuyers. Their digital tools make everything simple, and their human support ensures you're never navigating it alone. And with industry-leading speed and a $10,000 on-time close guarantee offer, SoFi helps turn dreams into keys. Take the first step at SoFi.com/home-loans. As your business is really starting to scale, you're getting to a good point, you decide to make a big media move. You go on Shark Tank.
We did.
What spurred that decision?
Someone reached out to us. They had seen us at the farmer's market, saw us on our Instagram, and fell in love with our product. And he was like, I want to invest in this company. I'm going to give you $200,000. I want to invest. And I'm sure it was around like for 10% of the company. And what came with it was just money. There was no resources, no network, no connection, and no knowledge. And we were just really struggling with that because we needed the money to really grow. We were talking to Whole Foods. We were doing really good locally in Dallas. They were going to expand us. And we were talking to Sprouts. They wanted to put us in. It's like we could see the growth, but we didn't have the money to do it. And so it was so funny. We were like freaking out over this. And then I literally opened Instagram and Mark Cuban had posted that Shark Tank tryouts were coming to Dallas in 3 days. And so I was like, Steven, we have to go. We have to go. So we went and stood in line. It's like an 8-hour process and you go and you pitch and like 10 people are pitching all at once and you go in and you have 3 minutes. So you literally wait in line for 8 hours. You go pitch and then you have 3 minutes elevator pitch. And we pitched and they were like, this is fantastic. We think you guys are going to make it all the way. Little did we know it was still 6 months until we got on the show. It's quite a long process. So I was 3 months pregnant with our second when we tried out the first time. time. And then by the time I got in the show was 6 months later, which means I was 9 months pregnant. Literally. I had the baby about 10 days after.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was so funny. I was like, I kept talking to him. I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm going to have this baby.
Yeah.
But in the back end, what they were doing is they actually want the entrepreneurs to get a deal.
Right.
So Rohan Oza was a guest shark. He was on one of the days. They were trying to match us up with him and his schedule. So we're towards the end of the filming, which I was like, you guys, hello, I'm super pregnant. But I also was like, hey, my sister lives in LA. If I have the baby out there.
You're like, not my first rodeo.
My doctor was like, you're good. So we took the chance. We came, and then spoiler alert, we did get a deal on Shark Tank.
Did you and Steven talk about beforehand what a good deal would look like, or like what you'd be willing to accept?
Absolutely. We originally went in asking for 5% for $400,000. And little did we know, when you go on the show, if you ask for $400,000, you cannot offer less as a shark. So $400,000 is actually a lot of money for these sharks doing deals all the time. So you'll see a lot of people go in and maybe ask for $50,000. And I think like if you really want a deal.
Wait, what do you mean? So like if you ask for $400,000, I can't be like, well, actually, I'll give you $200,000. They can't.
You can't go below. So I think that for any entrepreneur that wants to go on Shark Tank and you really need a deal, do a little bit less money, you have a higher chance of getting a deal.
Okay.
If it's a good business, they'll invest more in you as you go. But I do think $400,000 was a lot, especially for a beverage. And none of the sharks are historical beverage people, except for we had Rohan on, which we didn't even know he was on. So they match you with them. I think we knew as we were going to bed the night before. And then we had to be up at 4 to be on set. So we knew for like 6 hours.
Right.
So there's not much to prepare or do anything around it. We just like, oh, amazing. Our chances went up.
What's it like being in that room? These sharks like mean mug you while you pitch.
You're in there for 45 minutes.
Oh, that seems longer because like on TV, we see you for...
Well, they cut it down to 5.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So they're just yelling at you. All 5 of them at one time. What are your margins? How many bottles can you do a minute? How can you scale? Why are you still in the kitchen? I do remember like browning out, you know, where you're like outer body experience. Your mind kind of like stops. My husband hates watching it back. He was like pouring sweat. But I will say the one benefit of being pregnant was like I like had to stay calm because I was like, I can't go into labor on TV, even though it would probably make really good ratings.
Yeah.
But I just remember we needed a deal. And it's really fun because this season I'm a guest shark on Shark Tank, the first one to come back. And it's really fun to see both sides of it. And I have a lot of empathy for the entrepreneur because I've stood there before.
Right.
And it really is a TV show. But then afterwards, you actually have to do due diligence and get the deal done. It's completely separate. So we got the deal. We walk out. We're like, okay, now what? So then we met Stevie, Rohan's second in command. She came, she's like, Rohan's super excited. We'll reach out next week. And then it took about 6 months to do due diligence. It takes a long time. I think people don't realize that you don't just like close a deal.
They got to audit your books.
There's a lot of work to be done after that.
Okay, so Rohan gave you a deal of $400,000 for 25% equity. After you got the deal, what were the thoughts coursing through your mind?
We'd been working so hard leading up to it, running every scenario, working through, if they ask this, will they do this? I remember when he gave us the offer, we didn't even think about it. We were just like, this is the right guy for us. So for us to make that deal was really simple. And then we left and we went and took a nap. I'm not even kidding you. Because to get grilled for 45 minutes by 5 sharks to get a deal that's now going to change your life forever, like your body and your emotions almost can't handle this type of level of, I don't know, adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's almost like running a marathon, I would say, or running 2 marathons. Little did we know we were just getting started.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of silly to ask this because hindsight is 2020. You had a major exit from Poppi. It's been all over the news. Looking back at that Shark Tank deal, do you wish you had maybe negotiated to give away a little less equity or anything like that? Or are you happy with the deal that you made?
We're very happy with the deal we made because Rohan had enough sweat in the game to care.
Yeah.
He gave us a lot of resources.
Yeah.
He gave us a lot of his time. 25% of a company, that is real equity that if you invest your time, just the return on it is just going to be so much higher. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to give up equity and they want to like hold everything. We gave most of our employees at Poppi Equity. We, did equity deals with celebrities. I wanted people like in it with us, like living it and feeling ownership. Cause then like that passion, I feel like really helps people stay involved and work hard.
And one of the big changes that Rohan made when he came on to your team was a full rebrand. How did that make you feel?
I think our first meeting together, he goes, look, you guys have a fantastic founding story. I love your liquid, but I hate your branding. And he didn't say hate. He said, your branding is shit. And
I don't know if that's better, actually.
Yeah, I was like, huh. But you know what? We knew it because we were so focused on manufacturing it. We weren't really focused on the look, the feel, the brand of it all. We were actually really excited to have their help. And so we embarked on a 9-month journey. Me, Steven, Rohan, and Stevie, we took that time and we did a full rebrand.
I know you've been asked this before, but why Poppi?
It's just a play off soda pop. Poppi pops off the shelf, screams soda pop. We knew we had basically a soda. We were in a bottle. If we're going after big soda, it's obvious that we go into a 12-ounce can. We want to be bright color, taste, all of those things. We don't want to be like healthy, clean girl aesthetic, right? We wanted to be not an apple cider vinegar drink. We wanted to revolutionize soda for the next generation. So we did all of this work pre-launch, and then we launched Poppi March 3rd, 2020, the first week of COVID, which was like a wild time to launch a business.
We'll get into that in a second. But being a startup, there were ebbs and flows. Did Steven ever sit you down and say, hey, if this thing happens or XYZ occurs, we got to hit the eject button?
I think even if he said it, I would have told him to screw off, is how much I believed in it. I will say, I think there's some stuff he kept to himself that didn't tell me. And just recently, post-exit, he told me a story about how we had no money to make our mortgage one month and that he was like scared we were going to lose the house. And he was like, okay, we either have to like quit doing this. I have to go back to work. And he never told me this. The next day he came home, he opened the mail and we got a tax return for the exact amount for our mortgage. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a crazy story. And you kept that to yourself. And he's like, I had to stay strong through this to know you're supported so that you can live your dream, which I think is everyone needs someone like that in their corner.
I mean, do you believe in fate?
There's a lot of things at Poppi that I'll say that just like those doors opened or those moments happen and they're just so unexplainable that it's like creepy in like the best way. The mortgage was paid and then the Shark Tank thing kind of happened the next month. And then we just kind of like, we have to keep going. We're getting a deal. It was like all of these things just like kind of gave us that affirmation that what we were doing was right. I will say if we didn't get a deal on Shark Tank, we probably would have gone out of business.
Really?
I just think the brand mother did not have the same legs as Poppi to be successful.
That's crazy. It feels like there's just moments in your life where one thing happens and it is a butterfly effect for everything else.
I know.
And speaking of, as soon as you finish the rebrand, everything's about to be amazing. COVID hits.
Right.
Talk me through that. I mean, everything in your business changed overnight. Getting that news, how did it make you feel? What was your next step?
Well, there was a lot of unknown with COVID, right? Nobody really knew how bad it was going to be. It's fine. It'll last a week. So there's this huge event in Southern California called Expo West. All the products go to it, thousands and thousands of businesses, and you showcase your products and you meet with all the retailers. So we get on a plane. I think there's 3 cases of COVID. We land, we set up our booth. We have to do this. Like we're launching. We've just put everything into this, like everything on the line, and then they end up canceling the event. We're flying home, hundreds of cases of COVID, just thinking to ourselves, what are we going to do now? Just like who I am, I'm like, well, we can't stop. Like, let's shift everything to Amazon. We had a national rollout with Whole Foods and Sprouts and, all of these retailers. Well, they were more concerned with getting toilet paper on the shelf than putting new products in. And so it was one of these things that I was so happy that we were on Amazon because what were people doing? They were pantry loading shelf-stable items. They were looking for better-for-you products. And we hit both of those buckets. And then we had filmed an update on Shark Tank before COVID, and it aired April 2020, the 2nd month of lockdown. How often is everyone stuck at home on a Friday night, but during lockdown?
Every single person.
It was bananas. We did $5,000 on Amazon literally before it. After we did $250,000. It was just such a huge jump. We hit Amazon hot new 100 product list. It had such explosive growth, like our second month of business. Once again, an affirmation that what we were doing was right. Everyone was just so jazzed. We started getting into the retailers and the flywheel just started taking effect and the momentum, and we just kept leaning in and doubling down.
Yeah. Let's take a quick commercial break. Richer lifestyle. Be right back with more from Allison. Be honest, besties. How many times have you skipped trying something new because you didn't want to mess up? Whether it's pottery, guitar, or even crypto, how you start matters. So why not start with an advantage? SoFi is offering a 1% match on crypto buys through March 30th, no matter what the market does. Buy $500 in crypto, get an extra $5. Buy $1,000, get $10. It's an automatic bonus that adds up over time. Plus, you get a platform with bank-level safety, built-in education, and instant money movement all in one app. We love a strong start. Learn more at SoFi.com/crypto. You mentioned the $250,000 in sales. What did your personal finances look at that moment?
Oh, we were not really paying ourselves. So when we got a deal on Shark Tank, I actually wasn't even offered a job. Steven got a job. We offered to pay him a salary of $50,000. Still didn't have any money. It was still very startup-y. And then I said, I'll still not take a salary. So we were living off of Steven's $50,000 a year salary. April, we were getting momentum and they're like, okay, Allison, I think we can start paying you, which happened probably a lot quicker because of the virality. I think I started at like 40 or something, like very minimal.
Right.
Basically, we just were like, we have 2 kids now. Yeah. We need to be able to pay our mortgage. And then like, we'll just continue to live this lifestyle of just very, very, very just, simple.
Yeah.
And then we just started really gaining. So I think for us, we were rewarded salary-wise as the business grows. And I think that that's how it should be as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. $50,000 is not a lot of money, especially not for a family of 4 at the time. Were there any other sort of benefits from the business that you were going to be able to leverage to help keep your family afloat? Or was that truly $50,000, you better be budgeting down to every red cent?
So something that I don't think I've ever said before, Steven still had a second job. And it was, quote unquote, we weren't supposed to. We were supposed to like contractually.
Full-time entrepreneurs.
Full-time. Like we had a employee agreement with Poppi and Steven, but he still spent a lot of his nights and weekends working in GIS mapping, which is what he did in oil and gas. And it brought in, I think, an extra $2,000 a month for us to really be able to just live, because a family of 4 living off of $50,000 a year, it would be really difficult. So, we were still hustling on the side.
Definitely hustling.
Yes.
How did you guys also discuss equity between you and him? Was it a 50-50 split?
Yes. Yeah. So between me and Steven, it was always 50-50. So I had mine, he had his. We built it together. So it's just like our money. I think the funnest was at exit, we got half the money and it was like mine. And he was like, where's mine? And then it hit like 4 hours later. So that was kind of fun.
Was there ever a moment during that period where Poppi looked really amazing and shiny from the outside, but you didn't necessarily feel secure on the inside?
Look, we had really crazy growth at Poppi. So we're one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing beverage in the history of beverage. With that, you have to hire people with real knowledge and understanding of the industry. We were growing so fast that it got to the point where me and Steven were like, this is kind of above us. So Steven stepped down as CEO, and that was needed. And we were part of the conversation, but it was emotionally hard, right?
Yeah.
It's your baby. You don't want to do that. And then a few years in, I also was running our marketing, and I stepped aside to run our brand and creative and gave up like the retail and like the paid side of things because I'd never bought a Super Bowl ad, right? Like we were very self-aware to know that we probably weren't the best people for that. I give us a lot of credit for that because we didn't allow our ego to get in the way of growth, but it doesn't mean it was easy.
Right.
It ended up being the best decision. It was a lot, but I actually feel like it made me grow as a person and a leader.
During those days, were you listening mostly to your gut, to Steven, or your advisors?
Oh, gut. Like
gut,
always. So that was the beauty is like, yes, we brought in all these great people around us, but everyone still really supported my crazy. It's almost like we hired people to allow me to be crazier, down to like what flavor should be in our Costco box. Like the salespeople were like, what should be our top 3 sellers? And I'm like, but they're not cute together. We have to color. And what is the story behind it? And they would listen to me. Whereas historically, I think people would be like, let's do our top 3 sellers. I was able to just kind of like stay in that vision, stay in that vein, and like really grow with the people around me. And so I think my gut got me pretty far, and people saw that it worked really well.
You have had some incredible partners, Alex Earl, bringing on these celebrities, these influencers. What made you choose to actually do deals with them versus going the more traditional VC route? And what was your thinking there?
So what I think a lot of people don't realize is we grew with these influencers. So Alex posted us in college. I remember the first time Jake posted us, he had like, I think 60 or 80,000 followers. And so they were fans of ours with the beginning. So with their rise was Poppi's rise. And a lot of people will come to me and they'll be like, I want to work with Alex Earl. And they have 10,000 followers and they're in like 4 locations in New York. Yeah. I'm like, no, find the next Alex Earl. We were so good at being with our pulse on culture. We knew who the next so-and-so would be. And so with that, we were always really big on giving equity to allow us to continue to grow because we weren't profitable. So you give equity to these people, they're now invested into the brand. They're going to want to work harder. They're going to want to be seen with it and do extra and go above and beyond. And then they had to have faith that it was going to hopefully someday exit. And it was a lot cheaper to give them equity than cash at the time because we didn't have a lot of it. So
in 2025, Poppi sent full-sized vending machines to a lot of your influencer partners, and the internet had some pretty strong opinions. Did you expect that level of backlash?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So just to kind of put it for context, we were a soda company sending soda vending machines for Super Bowl watch parties. Super Bowl is the one time a year that soda is the #1 consumed drink, more than alcohol and more than water. It's soda Super Bowl.
Right.
So for us, it made a lot of sense to use these vending machines to send it out to really make a splash on the internet. The downside is people didn't see it that way. They saw it as overconsumption, that we were gifting these to these influencers that already had a lot of money. And I absolutely see why they thought that, where in fact, we bought these vending machines to use for years to come at lots of events and lots of things. And people said that we should have put them in teachers' offices or nursing homes. But at the end of the day, that's not marketing.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. And so I think a good lesson that we learned from it is we had always been so community first and authentic and real that it was probably a little bit out of touch, right? And I think it was a good lesson for us to kind of get checked a little bit, to understand that and to listen to it. So afterwards, we still saw sales rise. Yeah. And it ended up getting a lot of eyes on Poppi, and most people kind of understood what we were trying to do. We're not allowing it to stop us from thinking differently, being disruptive, trying new things. We can't just live scared and not do anything.
I think that's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
So we've been alluding to it this whole time. In 2025, Poppi sold for an eye-watering $1.95 billion. You are the only female entrepreneur to have a beverage exit of that size ever, period. Snaps for that. Talk to me about the payout. Was it primarily cash? Was it stock? Was it anything in between?
So Pepsi bought 100% of the company, which was 100% cash. No stock, nothing like that, which is actually very rare. And I think it shows how special Poppi was. And then on top of it, they hired every employee except for me and Steven, which is totally fine because you don't exit your company and then say, hey, give me a Pepsi employee badge. Right. So we stayed on as advisors. I'm still on as advisors. We're very blessed that they believed in us so much to just take the whole thing at once, which is really cool.
Cut you the check and said, get out of here.
Exactly. We closed, the money hit, and then I moved out of my office 1 week later. It was really emotional.
Did you cry?
Oh, yeah, of course. I was like crying with the team. And it's just like the end of an era of like happy tears. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't talk about post-exit and like purpose. For me, I think having that is really important.
And one thing that has so impressed me about your story is that you have done all of this while being a working mom. Talk to me a little bit about what advice you would give to other mom founders who want to do this, but also want to take care of their family.
You don't have to choose.
Really?
Is it going to be harder? Absolutely. Are you going to have mom guilt? Absolutely. Like all of these things can be real, but they can all coexist. So we made the decision to have kids and grow the business knowing it was going to be harder. And we just focused on it. We focused on the kids. We focused on the business. What we didn't focus on was probably our marriage. Early on, we decided to take the pressure off of our relationship. I didn't need flowers for Valentine's Day. I didn't need to go somewhere extravagant for my birthday. We could stay home for spring break. We found being present and being with our family where we could is all they needed. And so I think a lot of moms put a lot of pressure on themselves and feel like they have to choose. We also couldn't afford a nanny at the beginning, so I asked my mom to move in with us. She lived with us for 2 years. We were willing and able to do anything we could to get help to be able to do it. On top of it, I breastfed on Zooms. I allowed people to bring their kids to Poppi national meetings. The families was just part of the culture at Poppi of just like this core value. Was it harder? Yes. I still think you can do it. You just, might have less sleep.
Yeah. Thank you for giving us a peek behind the curtain. I feel like people don't talk about those sacrifices. It's just the glitz and glamour part.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, kids are not glamour.
Right. And do you think now that you guys have exited, you will be reshifting your time and your priorities towards your marriage and even more to your kids?
Absolutely. That was a huge conversation we had. So me and Stephen were working towards one goal for 10 years, and that's to exit, right? Yeah. Not like our only goal, but it was definitely something that we knew that would create legacy and generational wealth for us and our family and generations to come. So it was a really common and easy goal to sacrifice that time. And when we start our next company, I think we'll have a little bit more balance.
Wait.
I know.
Did you just say when we start our next, are you just going to become a serial entrepreneur? Like you have the itch again.
I do. We're already working on it. I think the biggest piece that I miss post-exit, my life has absolutely changed through the wealth and the resources, but it's the knowledge I want to put back to work. I miss working with the team. I miss being collaborative. I miss like being in it. And we had a really good idea and there's a really good opportunity and it's just kind of hard to not do it again. Like, why not? I'm not going to retire at 39.
Yeah.
So
I bet so many people who saw the headlines were like, wow, Allison and Stephen are going to ride off into the sunset. Clearly not.
I know. It's a problem. That's why it goes back to like the build is what I really love. And it goes down to money doesn't make people happy. It's so funny. The day the money hit our bank account, we were like, let's go to lunch. Let's celebrate something. I ended up having to jump on calls and there was like PR stuff. We ended up getting into a fight because we didn't spend time. We were just like, why are we forcing this?
Yeah.
First world problems here. I'm saying this, but it doesn't create happiness. Right. I think your family, your like who you're around, your friends, your network, that creates happiness. Now we can do a lot more things, but with that comes responsibility. So, I can't sit still.
Wow. Allison, thank you so much for being here. This was such a joyful and effervescent conversation. I truly can't wait to see what's next. Call me. I'm ready to invest.
I'm here for it. Thank you for having me.
That's it for today's episode. Send this to someone who always has a Poppi in their fridge and make sure to like and subscribe for more from Richer Lives. See you next time.
And become Mark.
Cheers.